Well, I've been working 10 plus years with algorithms for self-driving cars, object detection, tracking, calibration, developed AI engines for a couple of generations on chip, 3D real-time visualization in cars. And as a side project, I thought it would be good if everyone else also can be efficient when they develop, so, including me. So, well, been doing a bit there on the side, and now it's more full-time on this basal Gerrit and Zuul CI, Gerrit, etc., to improve development speed for other companies. And I'm working at a company called Marathon. We are located there in Linköping, the Silicon Valley of Östergötland County in Sweden, I would call it. I'm a Gerrit user since 2011. Yeah, let's see. And I also am a contributor, Gerrit, no, actually JGit, it should say. But there was a bump of the JGit submodule. But here we see the contribution I've done to Git, which is you can nowadays, since 2015, fetch a specific SHA-1 from Git, which wasn't possible before that. Okay, Monorepo, Polyrepo. This is a holy war. I don't really want to go into it. So they have pros and cons, both of them. So I have this git-toprepo instead to simplify working with submodules, which is, well, the goal for this. So let's see. If I build code in a Polyrepo, what code was included in my build? I really want to know what SHA-1's Git commits did I use, and I need to log it in some way. So usually you do maybe a Jenkins job or something else, and I have a workspace building my library A, and I store it in some Artifactory, Nexus, whatever, and then I download it to the next workspace and I build my application. What I really want to know to reproduce this build is what commits was used when building. So if I do know that, let's just make a bigger workspace instead so that I have both the app and the libraries in one workspace. And then let's write down for each folder which repository and which commit hash was used. Now, you might recognize that structure, or we can just store it all in a Monorepo, of course, but your company won't allow you. So there are some tools to just convert your Polyrepo into a Monorepo, for example, git-subtree and git-subrepo. But we can also store these as a submodule. Then we actually do record in the .git-modules file the path, the URL, and Git links in the repository itself with which SHA-1 is used. Now, Git submodule update init works kind of fine. Fetch and check out as well. But if you want to do a rebase when you have submodules, you kind of need to do this. Git-rebase origin main, and then submodule for each git-c sm path rebase origin main, and then if you get a conflict, hey, that was a conflict in one submodule, but that requires that submodule to be in a specific state. So you can't really build when you get a conflict. When you have resolved it, do that for each again. How many use that for each when you use submodules? So how many are using submodules? Well, some people. For example, the Gerrit project. So git-toprepo is a way to keep your submodules, but only on server side. I want a Monorepo on my client side, so I don't have to do those commands. Then what I do is, on my client, is git-toprepo fetch, git checkout, git-rebase, and then git-toprepo push. So the toprepo subcommand is used then for fetch and push, not for anything else. Now, let's go and think about continuous integration. And so we pause a bit with git-toprepo and say we do change in library A. What would we like to verify? Well, that library A works, of course. Do we actually want our application to work as well? Well, maybe. Or maybe we verify it later when we actually uplift the version that app depends on. So on success, let's just submit into library A if we have verified library A. And then the next change we do, well, we bump library A into the application repository, or like update that revision, the dependency, and we verify that the application works. Okay, all fine. Or no, actually, it fails. So if it fails, then we tell the team for library A to actually improve the unit test suite, because our test didn't pass, so they are missing some test maybe. So we tell them also, please revert that change, because we want all the other fixes that you do in library A. But our sibling team, app2, is already using the new library A, and they can't go back, so we can't actually revert that change that breaks for us. So now different parts of the company are using a library, and some parts can't even upgrade that library. It's kind of a hell, so to say, when you come into that situation. And also, which library did you release in your full product build? Well, which version did I use of library A? I used 9 different versions in this release. 9 versions of the same library, yes, because it's different applications used different versions of the library. So let's instead do this, like if we have a change in lib A, let's verify lib A and the application. If the application verification succeeds, then we merge in library A, and we know that all our applications do work. All the dependents of library A, they have passed their tests. So let's bump them all up to that version so everyone works on the latest and greatest. So verify everything, submit it all. Well, this kind of, now we are doing it like if we would have had the Monorepo. And unfortunately, when you have a big CI, that means that every change you do everywhere will actually have to be verified with everything. That means you need to have a fast build system, a fast CI. If I have 10 changes a day per repository, and now I have 10 repositories, that's 100 changes a day going through my CI system. My CI system might not cope. Or if you multiply by 100, it's a bit more problematic. Now, I have heard people saying, but I need to submit code into my repository, even if it introduces regressions for others. I was very surprised for that argument to not verify the code early. But yes, I have heard these arguments. Now, upgrading the dependents is easy with Gerrit, because there is something called, try to pronounce this, super project subscription to submodule updates. It says so on that link, I promise. So let Gerrit automatically bump the submodules if we track dependencies with submodules instead of, for example, Google repo use manifest XML. But submodules add branch equals to period into your Git module and also do some configuration in Gerrit. And then, well, if you use period there, then you if I'm on main, I'm tracking main. If I'm on my feature branch, I'm tracking my feature branch. So you don't need to update .git modules when you branch your repositories. if you are consistent with your branch naming all over all your repositories, of course. But otherwise, the users are very confused if feature A is tracking feature B in the other repository. So please keep consistent branching. Now, it's also good if CI systems can cope with like atomic commits across multiple repos. And there seems to be a CI system called Zuul CI. You might have heard about it before, but that copes with that. And Gerrit has topic feature, which atomically merges things in. Excellent. This sounds like a good fit. Now, oh no, this holy war again. So there are monorepos, and like this is, didn't know how to fit this in, but want to do some kind of comparison. So visibility, if everyone can see all the code if you have a monorepo, cross-team contribution, I think that's positive compared to a polyrepo setup. Okay, dependency management, sharing dependencies is trivial, no binary artifact storage or anything like in between, so you just build everything from source. Well, one version of everything and easier to enforce unified style and quality standards. Well, I have the formatter script in one place and everyone uses it because everyone checks it out. Unified build process and CI, well, if all code is in one place, you have one build process. Well, you can have one build process that includes every project in the repositories. You don't have to. You can have like separate islands, but you can unify it. And you have a shared timeline, so breaking changes in APIs are exposed immediately, so you actually fix them. I'm updating this. I'm just renaming this function, and I can fix it all over the code base because this name is much better. I can make such trivial changes that just improves the code much easier. Well, I'm not just green smiley faces. Atomic commits simplifies large refactoring in Monorepo. Well, with git-toprepo and polyrepo, you kind of need some CI support then to do that. And code review, well, one place to review all the code in your monorepo. Well, in the polyrepo and git-toprepo, you review every single repository. So if you do a large-scale refactoring in 50 repositories, you need actually to review all these 50 changes in Gerrit. Fortunately, you can see which they are. Branching, well, one branch that covers all the projects may not be wanted in the monorepo, but it might show as well what you have. I don't want to branch that thing, but, well, it doesn't really matter. In a polyrepo, you can actually branch wherever it's needed, but it's kind of, it's a mix, plus, minus, I don't know. Broken master domain, some may say that, well, if my main branch can't build, I just block the whole company. Yes, you do. And if you do it in a polyrepo, that's also a problem. So what you need is an efficient CI engine and efficient build system. So you need to invest money in that, and that's a bit of a, well, the money perspective and investment is a problem. With the monorepo, you get slow Git commands eventually and with a large history. But with polyrepo and git-toprepo, you can actually retire submodules. I don't want this submodule anymore. Okay, well, don't fetch it. IDEs might suffer for, like with the checking out big files. Well, don't check out those submodules. I'm only working in this part of the project, so I'm checking out this part. Slow CI, yeah, as I said before. But access rights and monorepo, you get access to the whole repository. But if you have submodules or other dependency tracking, you can actually have access rights on submodule level. I clone the whole repository, I can see all the submodules, but I can't check them all out. No, you're working on that part of the project. You don't need to see all the other secret stuff. So branching, well, one branch. So I'm now going through those smileys that were not just green everywhere. With git-toprepo recommendation, use the same branch name in all the repositories, less user confusion, and if you skip branching in one of the submodules, well, it's just that Gerrit will stop bumping that submodule, so that's kind of easy. It will just stay on the same revision. Poor Git performance, well, remove that down here, just remove that bloated repository in the configuration. Say, I don't want to include it in Monorepo, I keep it as a submodule. Or here I'm just saying I'm replacing the submodule with one that has less history, with lib.a from 2025 instead of lib.a 2024. You need to have a build system that scales, so, well, Bazel, Buck, Bonanza, build barn remote execution, Zuul CI, etc. Access rights, Gerrit is, well, can leak information like this. Maybe everyone should not see that, but or maybe it's fine in your company, it depends. But there is a configuration to set this verbosity, but you will always see what project has been changed or not. It's a global configuration, as what I know, unless it has been changed. Another way is to have multiple top repositories that have submodules, some have just passed, but it's good to just have, good to still have one that maybe admins access and which you can kind of filter out from. The problem is, what SHA-1 did I build when I built app 1? Did I use the SHA-1 from the full top or from top 1? That's not easy to know. Future work, well, we want to kind of, it's good if we can kind of have a cron job tracking GitHub updates and do the same there. Improve the bootstrapping a little bit, try it out on Windows. I haven't tried it, even if I have a Windows computer, a laptop here. I never use Windows when writing code. We want to just have a command, git-toprepo fetch and a topic. That's not there yet. What else? I don't know, maybe someone used both origin and some other remote. That's not really supported. I don't know, Jujutsu, how would this thing fit in with the Jujutsu? Feel free to talk to me about that. Contributions are welcome, of course. There's a lot you can do to it. Now, example. Let's clone Gerrit. Let's move this window over here. So I want to clone Gerrit, yes. It's a few megabytes, 300 and something. I think okay, 320. No one else can access the internet right now here in at this university. Okay, there are a few tags. Oh no, I don't have a git-toprepo toml file checked into this repository. CD mono. So let's generate such a file. So I need to read through the commits and see what you actually have in your repository. Well, here we have plugins, commit message, length validator. Actually have had two different URLs in the history. In this case, this one needs like fetch.url. That's what I want to improve in the in the future. So I've edited this configuration, so we'll just bring in my updated git-toprepo, recombine the history so that it all comes up here. And now it's fetching the submodules as well and showing the slowest for the moment. Well, it's just one left to fetch, that's JGit. Oh yeah, one feature request I got was, can you please do retry on git fetch, because our VPN is just so patchy, so it just breaks every so often. And that solved a lot of problems for that customer. Yeah, expanding commits, unfortunately, I found an algorithm weakness, which I'm aiming to patch the coming week. But okay, there we go. Let's check out Ridge Master. Okay. Here we see this is where we are, and the original commit is actually that one, but now we have a different commit. If we git ls files, maybe we have plugins. Do we have a plugins folder? Nope. Next. Oh, it should be in the, oh God. Do we have some other? There we have. So here we can see code mirror editor, and yeah, everything is here in the same repository. You can still use git-submodules to check out things that haven't been expanded here, if you would like to. Let's use that log. We can see how the log is. It should be mixed up, like all the plugin changes and everything is kind of in one single log. Turns out that things are not really bumped immediately, but after a while, but this is how it can look like. If you are kind of always tracking the submodules, this looks much more tidy. Now, let's go to changing Gerrit, namely, yeah, I thought that change. Okay, so yeah, I just found one random change. I quite often like this command, so let's cherry pick that one. Git-toprepo, and then I paste it. But well, it's already merged, so let's revert instead. So, and it's reverted. We can see it has been editing plugins / download commands / and whatever included in that commit. And at last, I of course want to push this rest for master. I do dry run here, but you can imagine what happens. So we have git push plugins download commands and this reference here. So it has been removing plugins / download commands and created a correct SHA one there, so we can actually have a look at that one and see what does that include. Git show on that, it was that change, and git log on it. Yeah, the previous one is, now you can see that I'm storing all the namespaces, plugins, download commands, and the refs heads master, so it's master from that repo that I built it on. Yeah, I think that was the last of the demo, live demo that works. Excellent. So, in summary, well, remote polyrepo, root repo that tracks all the submodules, local monorepo, git-rebase just works out of the box. access module like Monorepo, and you can keep your repo slim and fast and via retiring deprecated repos. The version I've used here, the version that is released 0.5.1 does not work with Gerrit. I need to release a new version here. Yeah, otherwise it's available there. So, questions?
Okay, thank you very much.